years, months, whatever it is. But let's just assume this person is in a relationship, maybe a couple of years, and you have children. So this is our ideal person. You have children together, a house together, car together, and you're in this relationship and you're actually married to this person, right? When you're going through abuse, it could range from financial abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. Um, and these are some of the things that you're experiencing, and you don't know that it's abuse until you're really realizing that you're being held against your will in certain ways. You don't have a voice. You don't have the right to verbalize how you feel, your concerns. And the emotional manipulation, the gaslighting is so heavy in the relationship that you don't trust your own instinct anymore. You don't trust your own gut feeling anymore. So now you're solely relying on the person that's actually abusing you to get clarity and direction from them, but they've already have you in isolation and separated you from your family and friends because that's how they're able to abuse you. And you think it's because of love and you cling so dear to them. So me knowing that because I once was her, okay? So I understand it way too well that the level of abuse is that your finances is tied up with them, but they won't help you pay the bills. They'll sabotage your job, and destroy the things in the house. I've gone through these experiences, so I know this, a little bit more than the average, or some of us have gone through this. So when you're in situations like this, and your life is at stake, you have police involvement and stuff like this, it's very important that you come up with a safety exit plan. This is something that I feel like is very important to create, is a safety exit plan. So you want to ensure that you're creating a safe space to get out safely, because your safety comes first. One sudden move, and the moment that that person sees that they're no longer gonna have control over you, they will want to hurt you. And many times we see this come up on the news where they unalive themselves, the wife and kids, and everyone is gone because it was that fear of not having control, because the entire time it's just to have control over you. So I always am an advocate for those getting out safely, to create a safety exit plan and to start having these safe conversations with your children, but also seek professional help. And if you are in a situation, reach out to the domestic violence hotline. But the thing that I learned the most really going through this is you can't go back. You can, if you are in a situation like this, do not, and I'll say this right now. Normally I teach about this privately. Don't go to family members and friends that they know about. That you might think you're safe there, but if they're going to hurt you, they will find you at these places to hurt you. When you get out, you stay out. That's super important, that you create that exit strategy, you create that exit plan, and you stay out. The next thing I would recommend would be to start networking, start building your community of people that you feel comfortable with. You feel safe with them. When you share things with them, it's kept confidential. Start networking and building that type of community so you can now associate yourself with those type of people. And then the next thing would be, if you need to seek legal counsel, then you need to seek legal advice for stuff like this. Because where finances is involved, you need to get help for that. Children is involved, you need to get help for that as well too. And whatever other things you have going on. So even start learning how to save, how to do financial planning and budgeting. These things are really important. And we don't think about these things really. But there's people out there that are going through stuff like this, and this is my baby. I just know what it's like, and I just would love to help somebody get out of something like this. And even after you go through all of this, then you now need to execute that safety plan. And it's not over yet, because the next step is now to move forward and start the healing process.
Yeah.
So
That's
this is
good.
what I would leave with someone who wants to know more. This is something that is very personal and dear to me because I have my own experience. And I was so grateful of how my timing was right. And there was plenty of times where I was uncomfortable to make the move and I wanted to, but I knew I had to stay still. It wasn't the right time. My safety, it wasn't safe for me to leave. And this is some of the conversations that I do have on, like I said, with my clients, because of what I specialize in mostly. These are my conversations when it comes to relationship. They want to leave. They have financial ties with them, and they don't know what's the first step, what to do.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Maybe if somebody who's watching can grab that, the hotline number for domestic violence, and post that in there. I'll put it up on the screen, and because maybe there's somebody who's going to need to make a phone call to get some help. So, Dr. Latoya, what's your thoughts on this?
Yes, what a good topic to talk about. This is one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about because it's something that they're dealing with in hiding, There's a lot of shame attached to it. And they're embarrassed and they don't want people to know. And then also in these situations, oftentimes there's been repeated times that this has happened, right? And so if the last 4 times it happened, we ran to our family members and told them, then maybe this time it's a little more difficult to go out and say it again because we feel like we're going to be judged because we're in the situation again. Like, didn't I tell you last time? That kind of a thing. And so I think it's always good for us to actually have these kinds of conversations and talk about these things openly. But the main thing that comes up for me is just really the healing piece of it and noticing the patterns, like you're saying, right? Because even the cycle of abuse, it's a cycle. It's predictable. We know what's going to happen next, right? And so it goes from the honeymoon phase where things are great and we just so in love, right? And they just shower us with all the affection and love that we need. And then it moves into the part where they start to be more possessive and start to maybe make threats, start to try to demean you, make you feel bad about things, start gaslighting. And then they blow up. And when they blow up, it can definitely feel like, see, this is why I don't want to be in this anymore. And this is exactly what I was always afraid of. I knew he was going to do this. I knew this was going to happen, right? And I'm never going to deal with this again. I'm getting out. And then that honeymoon phase comes back around. Baby, I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. Sometimes I just get mad. We've seen it in the movies, even if we haven't experienced it personally in our lives or in the lives of people around us. We've seen it happen on TV. We know the pattern. And so learning more about not only the pattern of the cycle between the two people, but also learning more about what's not being talked about, what's not being said, which for me, it goes back to those underlying emotional needs that are going on underneath it all. What kinds of needs is this situation fulfilling for me? Maybe I have insecurities around feeling, am I ever going to feel wanted by somebody? But this person makes me feel wanted. Maybe it's just sometimes, but they still make me feel wanted. So they're fulfilling a need for me. And so the more we can learn about the patterns of the behavior on our side, even if we are the person who was, I don't want to use the word victim. So the survivor in this situation, we still played a role in it, right? So learning more about the patterns of what we brought to the table into the relationship and how we may have been seeking certain things and let certain things slide. Noticing what we did is what's going to help us to not get back into the situation again. Because statistics say that when people leave an abusive relationship, they are so likely to get back into a different abusive relationship. And they don't see it coming. It's not all obvious, like, they know from the first day. No, because it's the honeymoon phase at the beginning. And it seems so great. So it's so easy to kind of slip back into that again. And one more thing I'll say, this is also something that can be very multi-generational. A lot of women, specifically who grow up in environments where their mother was abused, they are more likely to get into relationships with someone who's abusive because that's what they're used to. And they equate that to love subconsciously.
Yeah.
So therapy, that's my answer. Therapy for healing, helping you to really learn more about all of this stuff. It can be so helpful in making sure you don't get yourself back into it again.
Yeah. Those are great answers. I just want to say that there's this also the part here that there are a lot of men who deal with abuse. And you can't imagine how many men are getting slapped around and getting kicked or getting punched, and in our society we are taught to just take it. You're a man, you're a guy. You don't whine, you don't complain. And who are you going to tell that your woman beats you up, slaps you around, blacks your eye? Who are you going to tell that to? Because a lot of times, like, we're also raised to know, if you raise your hand back at her and the police show up, they're more likely to take you away because you're going to do the damage. And, what seems like no damage to you becomes a lot of damage when it's on her. And, you're more likely to go away. You're more likely to get more time in jail. You're more likely to get a record. You're more likely for things to go really bad. So, if there's a man out there who is dealing with this sort of thing, you have to take ownership as well. I love what Dr. Latoya just said, that you have to ask yourself, how did I allow this situation? Because you did allow it. The first time somebody says, I should punch you in your face, right? People hit with their words before they hit with their fist. Okay, so it's in the language, and if a person will say it, they might do it, and after they do it, then what? And the first time you allow it to go by, and you don't do anything about it, you said, this is okay. I know, because I'm 6'3" and she's 5'4". There's some 5'4" firecrackers out there. And some of these women will slap the taste out of your mouth hard and really cause a lot of damage. And so if there's a man out there who is struggling with this sort of thing, I'm gonna put the hotline back up there. Look, maybe you need to call the hotline. Yeah. Maybe you need to get on this and on this domestic, it's very confidential. It's, nobody else is going to know that this is what's going on with you. But this is a place where you can get some help. Reach out to a therapist, reach out to a coach. You can inbox this show and you can inbox me, and I will help you in the areas that I can help you. That's my email right there. Shoot me an email and we will work through whatever needs to be worked through. If I feel like you need more than I am prepared to do, I got no problem with giving you a referral to a licensed professional therapist and helping you to get what you need out here in these relationship streets. So,
and I want to say one more thing on that. It's important for us to also never blame the victim, right? Mm-hmm. But it is very important for us to take responsibility for our portion. I have couples come in who say, well, my partner's 95% of the problem. And then I tell them, work on your 5%, because we all play a role. We all play a role. And so recognizing what our role is in working through the parts of us that are unhealed so that we can show up as a better person is separate from whatever's going on with the other person and how they're showing up. That's their stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. So taking accountability and responsibility for your own part in whatever it is, I think is the main thing. And then one more thing I'll say also, speaking on the men piece, yes, there are men who are being physically abused, and there's also a lot of men who are being emotionally abused.
Talk about that.
And so there's a lot of, screaming, threatening. There's a lot of blackmail. These kinds of things that make someone feel unsafe, financially unsafe. They're taking your money. They're threatening to take all your money. Mm-hmm. These things, I think that we, as a society, we can turn a blind eye to these things and kind of think that these are just, this is just their relationship and that's just how they are. But we all have the right to feel safe in the relationship that we're in. Yeah. And that is physically safe. It's emotionally safe. It's safe all the way around. And so going back to the responsibility piece, if you're in a relationship and you don't feel safe with this person, you don't feel like you can trust them, you don't feel like they have your best interest at heart, these are the times when you really need to either get into therapy and see if you guys can work through these things and try to make some changes in the way that you're interacting, or get out of the relationship. Because it's not okay for you to just continue to not show up for yourself and continue to allow people to be abusive towards you, whether it